Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Palo Alto, California. And I appreciate each and every one of you for attending this edition of the Founders Report, and I'm the host. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest, Christian Gleach. Christian is building an NFT trading platform. He's located in Munich. He's got way incredible experience from AOL to Big Wave. He's a marketing guy. He was a banker, apprentice banker. In fact, as the first person I've ever seen that's got a title of an apprentice, a banker, loves one-to-one market evangelist and a go-to guy in Munich. And the rest of the world. So with that, Christian, great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Good to be here.
Tell me a little bit about it. So how in the world did you go? You went, I've seen, you were at AOL platforms. Are you talking about America Online?
Yes, that's
what
where it was.
What was that all about?
Well, obviously they had some ad serving departments, and also like internationally in the States, but also internationally. And then they opened up their programmatic tools, and I basically headed up sales for the programmatic tools and ad serving. Ad serving got smaller and smaller, and obviously programmatic got bigger and bigger. And that was an interesting time because I thought it would be there to stay. Well, and it's still here.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Okay, so why did you become an apprentice banker? What is an apprentice banker? That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life.
I started like very young as a banker, like you normally start as a banker, and then I did what I could do there, and I totally loved banking, but actually I love more like the organizational departments and the events that came with it, and more everything around banking, like the framework of banking. So I basically got out of typical banking and moved so much into digital over the last 25 years, basically. But still, if you have an interest for numbers and for money, it comes back. So here we are with NFT.
I think a lot of people like money, that's for sure, Christian.
I guess so.
And so you went from, you've had that progression, free spree, turning phone calls into digital data, moving forward. So what's driven you in your career? What made you decide to move forward? I mean, you're dealing with the rest of the world and some of the marketing activities you have. You've been the chief strategy officer. You've been advisor. You've worked with Berta. By the way, I met the nice, she's from Russia originally. She was running the accelerator at Berta. I don't know if she's still doing it, but I met her many, many years ago. Actually, in Russia, we had a contract with Berta.
Yeah.
Natalie, I believe her name was Natalie, by the way.
Natalie, yeah, Karbasova. That's the lady you meant. Yeah, it's when I got out of banking and studied economics, I found it pretty interesting. All the relationships between companies and the countries and everything that comes with it, taxation and everything that makes our daily life basically. And at a certain point, I had the impression of everything gets more digital. That was way back into time when you had green numbers and green typo on black background when you were typing on the IBM internal news messages, and everybody was so excited about it. This is how old I am. Everybody was so excited about it that it's there. The moment you hit return, it's there at the recipient, and everybody was so excited about it that I thought, well, this could be a thing of the future. And I'm not talking about emails. And then emails came up, and everybody, well, at least at that time, got excited about emails. And then things got more personal on mobile phones than on smartphones. And I had the forecast, so to speak, that digital and personal digitalization would become our daily business, our daily dues, and that's where it all started, and now we're there where everything is personal, where everything is digital, and that's why I totally love digital. I love the advertising world with programmatic. That's well, behind every website, every publisher's website, so to speak. Um, but also, how could you set up projects, and how could you do the UX? At that time, it wasn't even called UX, but how could you set up the UX in favor of the customer, in favor of the user? Well, to gain more users and to gain more subscribers than the competitors, and that's what I found super interesting, and I still do.
No, so you've worked with you've been on different pitch competitions, Unicorn Battle. You've done the brand ambassador work with Lenovo, etc. What do you see changing in Germany today? What do you see the changes taking place? Because I know when I was over there back in the late '90s, I cut a deal with SAP in Waldorf, and it was kind of rigid. To be honest with you, it was really kind of boxy. And I grew up in Pennsylvania in a German community, and very conservative, tight with the money, not really risk, maybe risk averse. How is it today in Germany? How is it in Munich today?
Well, nothing much has changed, I must say. It's still long decision cycles. I wouldn't say every penny is turned twice or three times, but maybe one or two times still. It's the mindset in Germany still is totally different from the Silicon Valley mindset. Silicon Valley mindset to me is very open, is risk taking, is trying out things. I mean, when I was at AOL as an example, and we were dealing with the UK market, and the UK clients were so open for tests, for pilots, for like 3 6 months. Yeah, let's try out things. When big data came up, how can we structure big data? How can we learn from all the data stack that we have? In Germany, it's much more, should we really do a pilot? Should we really start things up? Doesn't that hurt our process? It's very, as you said, it's very box thinking.
But how do you go, Christian? How do you get to be, you know, how do you get to really become a leader of innovation if you got that mentality? I'm just, I have seen this in other countries and I've seen them come through it. And I know Germany's better, a lot better than it was before, outside of Silicon Valley, by the way, it's the same. So if you go to, a small town in Missouri, and by the way, if you're listening from Missouri, I'm not picking on you. But if you go to the small towns, I mean, it's very conservative. In Florida, by the way, up until the last 2 or 3 years, was very conservative too. Why? Because a lot of the people from New York and the Northeast of the U.S. would come down here. They used to brick and mortar. So you buy a store, you buy a shopping center. That's the way it's done. You can't deal with these kind of fuzzy things that are out there. So how do you think it's progressing? And how is it progressing? And if not, what can be done?
Well, the thing is, if you talk about Germany, well, about entire Germany, the entity of Germany, where there are specifics, obviously the same with the states, same with every country, but Germany is very, very well set up, very established. Everything is like made, same in the states mostly, and if you then go to other markets, for example, Africa, you have way more innovations. You have so stunning patents over in Africa because the country is not that settled, not that established like here. I
Mhm.
mean, even if it's going bad here, it's pretty good compared to other countries.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
it's sort of the same in the States. So why would there be a super innovative mindset? Some people are. Well, I would count
Yeah, but
myself
you know
in,
something, Christian? I think like around the world, and I've written I have another article coming out in Forbes in about a week.
right?
And I'm kind of concerned because people sit on their hands, and yet you've got these incredible economies like India, like Africa, and the 38 countries there, like Latin America with 647 million people, and got a lot of challenges to face around the planet. We got global warming. We've got a population going from 8.1 billion to 13 billion estimated by the end of the century. We need to double the food supply by 2050 to feed everybody based on the current models. And we can't increase the amount of livestock because 26% of the pollution today created by livestock. So it's going to, the world's going to count economies like the German economy and the infrastructure, like the US, like the Indian, like the Chinese, everywhere, Russian, Ukrainian, to be able to go down through and make a dent. I mean, we got to work together on things. And you know, I remember when I first went over to Eastern Europe and to Russia, to Moscow, and people were pretty rigid at the time. I mean, here we are, Silicon Valley guys coming in, many 20 years ago now. But I could see people open up, and it was like a light bulb went off and doing incredible things and changing the world. And so, and when I was in Germany, when was I in there last? I was in Cologne speaking at the AI conference, the Pirate Summit in Cologne. And I could see it there, by the way. I saw it at the Pirates, the same kind of incredible, interest. But, so, and then at the same time, I see the Swiss, Austrian, and German companies coming out to Silicon Valley because they say their valuations are too low. They say, well, the German first they move too slow, and then the valuations are low. So it's like there's like a pot of gold there, but how do you get it out?
True. I think what you just mentioned, like Pirate Summit, great event by the way. Um, the topics of AI, NFTs, people that are talking about it, people that have to do with it. I would say it's sort of a new breed. They have a different mindset. They are there to GSD to get shit done. Um, it's not preserving what you have, what the actual Swiss, Austrian, German mindset and mentality is, preserving what you have and be a bit proud of the successes that you have, like way in the past. But this is not how you go forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to go forward, and not only individually, but as you mentioned before, as a whole, as a planet, as mankind, we have to work together. We have to make a dent, as you said, and we have to really want to collaborate, not just like have to collaborate, but really want to collaborate. And years ago, I think like 3 years ago, it was the first time that I had artificial meat. And I was like, what's that for? I mean, I totally like roast. I totally like burgers, actually. But if everybody thinks like this, as you said, we're gonna ruin the world in a very short time.
Well, I
And
mean,
it
the thing is, we're not going to be around, Christian. I mean, net is, with the average temperatures. I just read an article. Within 20 years, the average temperatures around the world could go up 1.5 degrees centigrade,
and that's too much.
and that's a lot. So if you look at it, the Gulf Stream's slowing down. The amount of once it stops, the entire food chain stops because it.
Absolutely.
And I remember a long time ago, I had a pleasure of working with a guy named Irving Crick, and I remember Dr. Crick said that Gary, the day will come when the that stops. And Irving Crick was a PhD, Caltech. He actually had studied under Albert Einstein at Princeton. This was many years ago, early 90s. I remember him talking to me about global warming, and he ran the models, long range weather forecasting models. And I think that, our society, we got to figure out how to work together. We got so many wonderful, beautiful things on this planet. And
Yeah.
if we can democratize opportunity and help people live better lives, in Africa, when you start to help people and reach out and help them build companies, it really changes their lives and it changes the way they look at you, et cetera. Instead of, I when I spoke at the United Nations recently, I said directly, I said, it's not about stopping more. This is Mother Teresa. It's about pro peace. Okay, what can we do? Let's look at the similarities, not the differences. And I think, so, when I look at the kind of things that you're doing, and I want to talk about One Big Wave and you're the chief strategy officer there, but it's interesting because this is the greatest time in humanity that we can make a dent in the universe together. And we got to look at things like compassion. We got to look about things like empathy, right? The AI models today don't include those in. We've got to look at ways that we can work together, right? It ain't easy, believe me. I grew up in a household. My grandmother was North African. My grandfather's Greek. And on the other side, I was German, right? German, a little bit of English. So I had that direct piece. I had this mixed environment. And at the same time, what did people believe in? Hope. Hope. My grandfather started 17 business, hope, right? And being able to do things and get things done.
And that's why that's a very good point. And that's why we always have to we should have done it for decades, obviously, but we have to right now, we know so much from science, and we have to believe in science, and have to collaborate together in so many ways. And this time that we live in right now holds so many tools, and had such a great framework with artificial intelligence, with quantum, that not many people are talking about. But I mean, it's your topic, so maybe you should talk about it. But quantum will thrive us forward in a never before seen way. And it's the same with so many other tools, like the blockchain, where we can secure things that we couldn't secure before. And so many people keep asking me, what about physical goods? How can we collect physical goods for good, for a certain cause? And I said, well, you can do as you were raised, because we were raised in this physical world. But think about the non-existing logistics that you need in a digital world. You can collect things, you can make the world better in a digital world, where all the high cost of a physical world is basically eliminated. And the more people understand this, the more people think in a new way. I mean, NFT hasn't been there for long. The blockchain hasn't been there
Yeah.
for very long. And when you engage with these topics for the very first time, you think like, wow, this is so much information. But if you're willing, as an innovative mind, to struggle through this jungle of information, you learn so much, and the more you learn, the more benefit you can bring to mankind.
No, I agree 100%. And you and that's an interesting point because we're moving into this metaverse world, right? And so what's real and what's not, Christian? That's the thing that I've
Ah,
written two articles on the metaverse in the last 2 months in Forbes. So what's real and what's not? And are we moving into this metric matrix kind of a world, Tron from many many years ago, kind of a world where it's. I had one company approach me that it's a wheelchair company, and the companies use AR and VR for people that are handicapped to bring them into the real world, right? So they put these headsets on, and of course you can help people with walking. You can help them if they can't walk and they're not going to be able to do it. But then it's almost like Avatar, right? The movie, to be able to start doing things you'd never been able to do before. And so it's interesting. And how far is that going to go, right? And in
yeah.
terms of which is happening today. I mean, we're every single day we're moving closer to being totally online, right? I mean, in terms of this metaverse world. But
Yeah.
what's your opinion? What do you think?
I find it strange, because I read these days. I'm absolutely a fan of the metaverse, and of combining worlds of XR. Basically, I mean, everybody's talking about AR and VR, but it's basically XR or MR, mixed reality, that will come. Obviously, there might be Apple glasses next year. Everybody who will try them on will be totally blown away, I can tell you. But I read articles that say this and that person now even lives in the metaverse. But that's not right. They live in this physical, in this original traditional world. This is where they live. They like to move around in the virtual world, in the metaverse. But they're living, eating, breathing, drinking, in the sleeping, in the physical world, in the old world, so to
Well, I
speak.
mean, but and that's a point, right? So you can be living and sleeping and believe that you're sleeping in this kind of a bed, but in your world, in this MRXR world, it could be totally different. It could be the Versailles. Your house is
Absolutely.
Versailles, and you're walking down, and you're walking with your girlfriend, and maybe your girlfriend's real or not. Or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation. But you're walking around, and all of a sudden you're swimming in the pool of Versailles, and it happened to be your bathtub. It's
True,
like
true. And
it's
it's and
interesting to see
it, it's
where that's going to go.
it's absolutely fascinating, what's happening these days. and things will build up, but we're very early talking about metaverse. Of course, Facebook has renamed to Meta, and that should make it like more urgent. On the other hand, there will be so many metaverses. I mean, why I just read an article about PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, that bought land in the Sandbox. Well, there are so many sandboxes like Decentraland and Sandbox and so on and so on, and there will be more. Like in every trend cycle, um, at some point they will consolidate, and of course everybody's like super stoked about what's happening right now, and combining digital goods in the metaverse, in digital games, and sort of feel at home in those digital worlds. What I find for our old brains, because like for hundreds of thousands of years we used to live in a physical world, right? To have to touch a certain, I don't know.
Millions, right? A million years plus, right? It's a
Yeah,
long time, and but what was real and what's not, and that it's kind of like the philosophy classes I used to have in university.
and that and
What's
that's
real and what's not.
and that's what I find pretty interesting, because Hennessy, for example, like the cognac company,
Sure.
Hennessy sort of releases cognac for decades, obviously, but they now start to combine their very valuable bottles of cognac with the same bottles in digitalized form as an NFT. So you can not only collect like the real bottle and the real taste, but also the NFT part of it. And then when you think of collectors' habits, it's not only I have this one or that one. No, I have the pair. I have like the digital twin of the certain bottle, and obviously the value of it then will rise, instead of like the both single values will have like an exaggerated
Well,
increased
well, what,
value
what
of
if
both.
somebody owns a digital bottle and somebody owns a real bottle? Who owns what? I mean,
Well, if you own the digital bottle, you own the digital bottle. If you have the physical one, it's the physical one. But at some point, collectors will try to collect both and bring them
sure,
together.
absolutely, but it'll
And
be
that's why
interesting.
and that's why Nike and Adidas, for example, like strive in the metaverses, in those different metaverses, and buy land, not only like in a shilling sort of way, but in like the millions. They buy land because obviously they want to sell their shoes, their NFT digital twins, in stores that are digital.
Yeah.
So do we need this? Is this necessary? Is this well, who has something from it? And obviously there's so many people that play games and they're super attracted, and it's not only one person in the world, obviously, right?
No, it's interesting. So let's talk about. Tell me about One Big Wave. What you're doing there. I know you're the chief strategy officer. So what's One Big Wave all about for my
Well,
audience?
one big wave, I would say, is a one-stop shop for consulting advisory, but also for creativity, innovation, and obviously from creativity innovation, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the blockchain, NFTs, and so on. But we
Mhm.
have clients that we advise with certain go-to-market strategies, typical problems and issues of these days, like how do I do one-to-one marketing, which CRM would be the best, how can I individualize it, and so on. So obviously,
So it's really a good marketing consulting agency to help them under
yeah.
on the hands. That's good. That's so. Um, and how is it? How's business these days? What does it look like? Are people coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, help me with this"? Or and are they large customers, large clients? Or are they small clients?
It's mostly the clients that make the advertising for us. So we're not going out with marketing campaigns or so, because obviously people know people, and then they say, well, we're satisfied with that service, and they did a great job, and that's how we find new clients. And the clients that we talk about are from, I would say, medium size to very large. When I say very large, I mean like, for example, a Deloitte, not only in Germany but globally, because they're interconnected in this global world for certain topics. but also companies like Samsung, gaming companies like Rovio, for example, um, endurances, like very large ones, that need help with certain processes that they find are not that slick and are not that efficient like they want them to be. And when we talk about medium companies, it's more like go to market. It's more, how can I be faster, quicker, better than the competition? So those two territories, those two target groups are what we serve.
What about, I know from doing this many years on the consulting side, sometimes the big customers, all they want is there's politics involved, and they want somebody else to tell them the way they should do it, to basically support their idea. Is that you see that?
I couldn't have said it better.
Mhm.
It's basically that what we find. I mean, if they state a certain project in a good way, in a bad way, it's internal information. If they purchase the information from the outside, it must be right. And obviously, when it was right,
Well, plus there's not,
they found the right partner.
if it backfires, they're not going to be in as much trouble too, right?
Yeah, true. But that's the reason. That's the reason why we have many clients and many upcoming clients, because obviously what we do, well, we must do something right. I cannot tell about the project in deep because it's obviously internally, but it's pretty interesting to see what people need and what they think, and sometimes a new executive comes in and obviously has his ideas, but on the other hand, like, he brings our expertise into the company.
Well, that
um,
really supports
so
him.
obviously I'm on the right
It helps
path.
him push his ideas when he's not politically connected in the company in the beginning, right? Or her.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really helps. That's amazing. Listen,
yeah.
we're coming up to the top of the show. So, closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
How to get hold of me?
Yeah, closing thoughts. What are your closing thoughts? What do you think is going to happen over the next year or so in technology, and how do people reach you?
But I think by means of new technology, talking about quantum, talking about AI in deeper, will give us so many more benefits. When you think about vaccines, for example, we actually haven't touched AI of developing new vaccines and understanding, well, diseases and viruses. If we start with that in a proper way, we won't have a new pandemic, a new pandemic in the next,
And
I
we're
would
going
say.
to live a lot longer. We're going to live a whole lot
That's
longer.
that's the point. And there's so much that, as I said, as there's so many new tools, there's so much new technology that we have to dip in and utilize for the better. And I also think that in the near future we will be misled by, well, so to speak, technology. Well, it is technology, but so to speak, um, I don't know how to say it. If you think of avatars, if you think of graphical faces that you see on the internet right now, you're not even sure, is that face right or not? Is that the original face of that human, or is it
Deep
a
fake.
digital twin? Is it fake, so to
Yeah.
speak? And if you think about all these deep fakes that we saw already, which were pretty okay, they will lead us in the near future. They will lead us into a lot of thinking, and it should bring us into more research. What is fake? What is not? Can I trust this person, or is it basically the avatar
I
of the
think it's going
person?
to be really hard, Christian, in the near term.
It will be
It's
really
gonna,
hard.
as we're going into this new world, this metaverse world, it is going to be hard to tell. You're not going to know who you're dealing with, right? It could be anybody. It could be AI. I mean, it could be the real person. You don't know who's behind it. It could be
I think
the dreams and hopes of somebody,
true.
that comes that you see. But that's where the real beauty is, because now it's like it's like Indiana Jones from many years ago, where it's a new adventure for us, and we all can participate. We all
Yeah,
can look at the world in a different way, and we all can help make it a safer, better, and more interesting
Yeah.
to live.
And in the near future, sort of the same tools that developed AI, or that developed these fake faces, we will utilize, like, by means of AI, to find, is this face fake or is it real? And
Well,
this is actually interesting, that
well,
we will
that's
rethink our own processes.
we're going to have to, is it real or not, and what did they do, and then there'll be a solution, then they'll come up with another one where it comes in as,
Absolutely.
but that's part of the journey of humanity. For I appreciate you taking your time. How do people get a hold of you, Christian?
I'm best to reach on Christian at onebigwave.com. Maybe you want to check out onebigwave.com, our website, studio, maybe our clients that you see there. And for the rest, maybe it goes via you. Maybe people find me on Twitter as the Chris Wiz.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter. So
Yeah,
appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. To my
thanks
audience
a lot.
out there, listen, these are great times. Let's all work together. Let's solve a lot of
Absolutely.
the problems. We can do it. We can do it hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. Let's go out. Let's look at topics like global warming. Let's look at topics like increase in population. Let's figure out how we can feed people better, and let's figure out how we can live longer. Let's take care,
Right.
take safe, and stay happy. To each and every one of you, thank you for coming again today to the Founders Report. And my name is Gary Fowler. Stay tuned. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another exciting edition. Christian, have a great rest of the day. Hasmik, thank you so much. And thanks to the entire LaToken team for making the Founders Report with Gary Fowler possible. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.